before metrics, sit down with a person or an organization or a company and go, look, who are you really? Identify it and sort of package that. And then from that, the DNA of who you are, you can do anything.
The primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful.
AI is a golden opportunity.
How do we ensure that this technology is regulated?
The long arc of technological history is now in an extraordinary new phase.
The AI6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
Well, coming to us from Brussels, Sean and Liora, thank you so much for joining me on the AI6 podcast.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us, Joanne. We're looking forward to this.
Very much so. Thank you, Joanne.
Well, this is my first duo, so this is exciting.
Moving sprightly along.
So, okay, let's get into the AI part of the conversation. So you guys, like me, have been through the houses over many decades in terms of marketing, communications, and it feels like we're starting again as we get into AI. But Sean, I'll start with you. How have you pivoted to integrating AI into your work and then offering that as a service to clients?
Very good question. And we were debating how to get into this because we're not actually pivoting, aligning, all those buzzwords out there. We're actually launching. Now, roll of drums, it all sounds very grand to say that, but look, we've come to the conclusion that AI is an inevitability. It's going to sort of, like wildfire through all industries, not only the communication industry. So Liora and myself sat down and we sort of like kind of work out a business plan about what the market will need from here on in. And we've come to this sort of a resounding conclusion that we need to go back to basics and find meaning again. Because as manufacturing, the mechanisms of AI are well known, the danger is that in the mechanization and in the instantaneity, you're going to lose your communication essence, the DNA of what you're all about. So to a certain extent, it's back to the future. It's not a widely new concept, but it will become increasingly important as we get into automation, because even the big holding companies and advertising, etc., are looking heavily at automation in the sense that content does not even need human involvement. And so we see a huge market developing and getting bigger in the months and years ahead. So the Think Room is based about taking complexity and making it as clear as possible for our clients. Sit down, define who you are. It's more important than ever because the temptation and the pressure will be to just content, even to the point where there is no human involvement whatsoever. And it will just become marketing landfill in 0.3 seconds.
Yeah, and Liora, we've worked on joint projects before and really helping leaders and organizations communicate in the digital social world. But would you agree that standing out means leaning into your humanity and authenticity in the world of AI?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. And so we feel that now it's become more important than ever to understand what makes you unique. And every one of us is unique. But if you just throw something into AI, then that's not how you're going to find it. That doesn't mean we're against AI. And we are, in fact, offering AI services, but after this thinking process. So what we want to do is we want to sit down with the organizations and also individuals like these brand ambassadors that you just mentioned. And we define, if it's an organization, with key stakeholders, with members, for example, of an association, what is really the DNA of an organization? What are the key talking points? Because another point is that, before AI, it was enough to have a consistent content plan on social media to stand out because not everyone was doing it. So if you just communicated regularly, it was enough to give you the visibility that you wanted, for example, towards policymakers. But now, because it's so easy to create content, this tsunami of content is not going to be enough anymore to make you stand out. What you need to do is really choose one particular point that you can be really outspoken about, that you have a really original point of view about, and then communicate around that, create a really strong creative. And then what we do is we create a prompt kit, if you like, a DNA kit that you can feed into an AI or give to your intern or give to your agency to then create very strong content around. But the thinking has to come first and the humanity has to come first. So if you want to work with individuals, it's the unicity, the authenticity. Yes, they are words that are used very often, but it becomes so visible because before on social media, you saw a Spanish person writing and you could see it in their writing and it was good and you made them feel like you understood who they were. And now I see a Spanish friend of mine and he sounds American and it alienates me. I don't understand who they are anymore. So I almost like it more when they just post a quick video, which is not perfect, which is not edited down because, you know, it sounds like them and I can understand who they are. So absolutely, yes.
Sean, I was with a client yesterday, room full of communications professionals, and while they are excited about AI and to delegate some of those laborious tasks, I think almost exclusively they said, we're really worried about losing our tone of voice and who we are to the bots. What are your clients saying to you now? What are they thinking about?
Well, I'm glad to hear that because we've identified that as, the reason for setting up the Think Room is that, when you really sit down and think about what AI is promising, it's promising automation. It's a cost consideration. So lots of I'm from the creative world. A lot of creative people are feeling under threat at the moment, their jobs. And I keep saying that don't worry, creativity is going nowhere. In fact, the value of creativity, i.e. meaning, strategy, will incrementally increase as AI is rolled out because more anecdotal than anything, I've sort of lived through the digital transformation. And there's something that people don't really talk about. There's a correlation between digital becoming the primary or the dominant advertising medium and people downloading ad blockers. So there is proof in the pudding or the proof of the eating of people reacting instinctively in a negative way because the people are not stupid. They can sense when they've been talked at and not to. And as marketers, that's what we're always trying to tell people. You have to talk to people. Marketing is about talking to that one person in the room. But once you talk to one person in the room, you're talking to millions because that level of intimacy is universal. And that is something marketers find it extremely difficult to explain to the metrics people that tend to dominate most industries or organizations. They're looking for mathematical proof. And marketing, as we know, we've all worked in it, is like you walk into a room with feelings and instinct, and they're just looking at you like you landed from Mars. I want to see a chart, So, digital to a certain extent has introduced the notion of metrics, so it's well established now. But what we want to do is before all of that is sit down with a person or an organization or a company, go, look, who are you really? Identify it and sort of package that. And then from that, the DNA of who you are, you can do anything. So no matter how many tools and AI tools are changing every 24 hours. We both work with a lot of AI tools. And you and I can't keep up with it. I'm from the Gen AI world with videos. And I just stopped because I'll come back to it in a couple of months when there's a sort of a platform of some description that becomes a tool to say meaningful things.
You really have positioned Think House on a human-to-human relational kind of stage. And while we're all talking about the bots and they're getting our attention, that stood out to me. And it's a very simple message, but I feel post-COVID, post us all embracing digital, and as you rightly pointed out, we'd all mastered content marketing and visibility, and now everybody can do it. Where else do you see AI bringing us over the next 12 months?
Well, what you're going to get, if what the promising is transpires, is you'll just get a tsunami of sameness. You'll get bot talking to bot. And everyone will just switch off. That's the worst case scenario. And joking apart, all the big holding companies like WPP are actively actively examining it because the clients are demanding it. The problem is all the shareholders and all the boardrooms have heard about AI, and what are they interested in? Cost considerations, cost savings. So it's filtering down through the organizations to say, okay, you've got to implement AI programs. That's why the Think Room comes in again. We can help you sort of make sense of it all. But what you're going to get initially, because we got that in digital as well, you got these banners all coming out with saying, click here. And then people say, which part of click here don't these people understand? It was sort of a naivete vis-a-vis the digital transformation, but it's got much more sophisticated now. But I can see parallels with AI. It's like how this is going to roll out. So everybody's going to rush into it. They think it's a tool-dominated or orientated exercise, but it's going to be a disaster. That's how I feel, is that, you've got to start at the very, very beginning. Like, why say things a million times when you don't know exactly what you need to say?
And, I was just looking at the Digital News Report 2025 this week was released globally. And reach is not a problem anymore, but it's engagement, right, Liora? So, the human factor in the AI world is where we should be going.
Absolutely. And I think it's so interesting because we've launched this Think Room, and you called it the Think House, which, by the way, is...
Apologies.
No, I think that's super...
We think it's better. We actually made a note of that.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting because it's a Think Room, but we have several other rooms. So we were just discussing that it should have been a house with various rooms. So you instinctively felt that. So thank you for picking up on that. But so the Think Room... And also my personal profile, and I think Sean's as well, has appealed to so many people. So many people have contacted me to say, you bring something real to this space. We can feel that what you write is real. And often, it used to be more polished, my content. I used to edit it down more, but I think it's a bit of a response to AI. And so I feel that people are craving this. People are craving realness, authenticity, as we said before. So yes, I do think that this is the age of human relationships. And it's funny because I used to be part of a digital agency. Throughout COVID and even beyond, I did all my meetings online, and it was fine. And we had successes, but I do feel there's a real added value in meeting people face to face and building those real relationships. And again, we're not against AI. It's just, we want to do both. And it's fantastic AI. And we're helping organizations to work with it because, funnily enough, just like with the digital revolution, there are a lot of people that haven't even started yet or doing it, only using it for, to take notes or to do some email writing. And we were one of the early adopters. So for us, that's hard to understand. And there's a lot of privacy concerns, of course, especially in the EU. So this is difficult for us to understand. So again, we're not against it, but I do feel that this added value and what we really are all craving at this moment is, as you say, it's human content, friendships, and also the relationships between us and our clients. And it's one of the reasons we started this agency is that we wanted to be closer to our clients. If you work for a big company, if you work for a big agency, you tend to oversee things and other people are in touch with the clients. We want to be there for every client. We want to be in touch with as many people as possible and build those, and not as many people, there's a limited number of clients so that we can really do meaningful things, meaningful again.
I'd like to flesh out a point from Liora. It's a very important point because it's such a polarized debate. If you go on LinkedIn, there's always like armies marching, pro AI, and then you get the advancing army anti-AI. We're not absolutely the opposite. Like we've both been working on AI platforms for at least 2 or 3 years. When I came across Midjourney back in 2001, I was flabbergasted. I immediately started going through all the industries that were going to not only be disrupted, but annihilated. SEO. I could extrapolate right away because I couldn't believe, as an art director, I'd hire an illustrator, give them €1,000 or whatever, and everybody's happy. And I could actually put in a pint of Guinness illustration style. I go, and I go, that is unbelievable. And that's only the beginning. That was 2 or 3 years ago. So I've been experimenting with all the visual AI platforms to the point where I'm exhausted now because things keep changing all the time. Liora has been experimenting with all the AI platform. We're fascinated by AI, but what we've done is pinpointed or hopefully identified a weakness in the proposition, is that you will get this tsunami of sameness. And in marketing, number one rule is you've got to stand out. You've got to have a unique voice. You've got to say something interesting. You've got to say simple things in unexpected ways. All the golden rules about what marketing, communication are all about. AI, to a certain, paradoxically, will put those qualities or those, what makes marketing a valuable commodity for industry, even more forward. This is hopefully coming across as our passionate belief, and hopefully we sort of communicate that to our clients.
I love that phrase, a tsunami of sameness, because that just, I get it. And then at the same point, it just kind of unleashes the sense of fear that somebody would say that I or my work was just in this tsunami of sameness. Like, it's the utter, I guess, worst nightmare for a marketer, a creative, a communicator. And so I get a sense that we are leading the charge in our sector to remind people how noble and valued our skills are, and we're all about relationships. So I think you're onto something really, really important, because as you said, Sean, there's this urgency about, cost benefit analysis, efficiency, productivity, maybe getting rid of the middle management line, but without thinking about what that will do to your organization, your business, your people, or your reputation. We could be far worse off in 12 months than where we are now, and only dabbling, right?
There is palpable fear building up, because it's fear of the unknown, right? But the problem is, a mantra coming from the Silicon Valley people is that, mechanization can replace meaning. If it's efficiency, it's, but unfortunately, human beings, as the joke goes, are we're the most rational things in the known universe, right? Human beings are not rational. How they go about being communicated to or communicate with other people this is what drives industry insane about marketing, is that they can't quite pin it down. They know it works incredibly well. Otherwise you wouldn't be spending, I think it was $1 trillion, or just over $1 trillion globally last year in marketing communications. Why are they spending that amount of money?
Yeah, but it's a very good point that Joanne is making, because when you see in big companies, when there is a crisis, it's always the marketing communication departments that are first cut. And now it seems to be obvious. Why wouldn't you cut it? Because there is such an efficient way to do it. You just get an intern, they work with AI, and there you have it. You cut out all the budgets for external agencies. And perhaps it's possible, but you first have to do the thinking, and you first have to bring in experts, and you can definitely not just do it with someone who has no idea how to get to the audience. So I think you're absolutely onto something important. And the fear is real, because you see it happening all around us. So that's absolutely true.
Thanks. Liora answered your question, Joanne. I went off on a tangent, I think. She actually answered your question.
That's okay, but that's storytelling, right? We start off one place and then we journey off to another place where ideas take us. But Sam Altman was saying on the TED stage in the last couple of weeks that, by the end of 2026, humans are going to be managing agents. Now, that makes me a little bit depressed. Because the mechanization of marketing, as Sean so well puts it, means that, is that what we've come to? Overseeing the work of bots?
But it'll fail dismally. I'm absolutely, I've been on this planet long enough to know, because, what's that expression about? We don't live by manner alone. There is, humans are not that mechanistic in who they are. The problem is, they're talking about angelic AI, right? And there's Zuckerberg coming along. Zuckerberg's proposition is terrifying, amazing, and hilarious at the same time. You sort of, next year, you put in your credit card details, you send them the logo, and they'll do everything else, Good luck. It's talk about a tsunami of sameness. It's that, AI or mechanistic systems deal in averages. The joy and beauty of marketing, advertising, whatever you want to call it, communications, is that surprise, You say something that you weren't expecting, The joy of that is going to just evaporate. It looks brilliant in terms of metrics and charts on a boardroom table, but it won't work.
So what will work then in terms of AI that will become mainstream in the next year?
It's like you said, Joanne, on one of your podcasts, because of course we've been listening to many of the great episodes. And may I just say that I think it's such a brilliant idea to do a 6-minute podcast every day, because it's just the perfect duration to listen to every day. I wish I'd discovered them sooner, because now I have a lot of catching up to do, but just fantastic and such good content. So kudos to you. But you said on one of your podcasts that, you know, it gives us space to outsource the things that are really tedious, really repetitive, and bring back the thinking, like we were saying as well. So I think we need to identify what are those repetitive tasks that we can easily outsource. I think that's okay. I think that is okay. That's what we've done in an industrial revolution. And I think we shouldn't be scared of that. I think we just need to be wary that we're not going to give away our voice just because we don't know what to write. So we say to ChatGPT, please tell me what to write today. And then it's funny because my father is a psychotherapist, and he's always written so much books and stories and articles. And he says, sometimes I'm talking to Chetty, and I also calls him Chetty. And he just finishes my whole story. And he tells him, stop, that's not what I wanted to say. You're brilliant, but no, that's not it. So you need to be quite specific, and you need to tell your own stories.
What about the younger generation? You know, I think we're the last generation that will have come from, you know, black and white TV to full digital and now into AI. So we've navigated.
You had black and white TV in your day. Well, for us, it was just a bulb in the corner.
I did not have black and white TV.
No, but it is. We were talking about our kids earlier on, like both my sons, like, you know, one's in film school, et cetera, and he wants to do analog. But okay, I'm going to go off on a completely different arc conversation there. But the younger generation are a lot more savvy and suspect than my generation. Apprehensive. They understand the power of it. So, like this thing about, you know, let's chase, you know, Gen Z. Like they're going to be even more difficult to talk to because they're gone full circle. They're right back to meaning. I've had long conversations with my kids about this, and they get it that it's somehow this mechanization. They're talking about Hollywood, all the Marvel movies. It's like Hollywood's in trouble at the moment because everyone is trying to turn things into content. Like, have you noticed that language has been corrupted in the last couple of years? It used to be creative content, then it was content creators. Now it's content. The music industry talks about content. The film industry talks about content. And like, we're using language to divorce ourselves from our own humanity. Mm. So to back up what Liora was saying, our business model is actually will become even more valuable, we believe, in the future, because the aspects of our humanity come to the fore. That's the paradox of the mechanization. You have this background of ubiquity, bot-to-bot, angelic IA. Like, they're handy tools to have, but it actually, what makes us human, what makes things interesting on this planet will come to the fore, and the value will increase. The industries that are going to have the biggest problems is the production industries, because if I was a producer of TV commercials based in Belgium or Dublin or London, but I'd be extremely worried now, because it was an expensive endeavor to make TV commercials. If you look at what Google VO is doing now, like, extrapolate that out. Okay, that used to be a business model, and to a certain extent, the digital transformation was primarily about making percentages on production. While creativity thinking sort of was always there, but it's sort of subsumed by that business model. Now, if you have AI coming in and effectively reduces the price of production down to zero, I'm exaggerating for effect, but where's the added value? Why should a client hire anybody? Where's the value now?
And I've been asking myself since the end of 2023, what value are you bringing to the market right now, Joanne, in the age of AI? And I think that's a question everybody needs to ask of themselves. And if you cannot answer it, then go and lock yourself in a room until you find the answer. Maybe bring some people like you in with you, because that is the big question. And are you saying that to your clients?
Totally. Bring your humanity, bring your meaning. This sounds very sort of, ethereal concepts or whatever, but like, it's always been of incredible value in marketing and communication. But now it's even more valuable because it's the only thing you can bring to the table.
But it's interesting how many organizations, when you ask them, what makes you different from the competitor that does the exact same, says, well, we do this and that. So the what, Simon Sinek's what, rather than, and the how they can answer, but they very often can still not answer the why. This is not new. This is not because of AI, but they should have always been able to answer that question, but it's become so much more urgent right now, and they still cannot do it. Yeah, we do that. And, but what makes you different? It's very important for individuals. It's very important for organizations. And yeah, exactly. This is what we are dying to help people in organizations with, because it's the most important question.
And Liora's been talking to a lot of people, very active, fair play to Liora, talking to lots and lots of people, and they're all coming to her and saying, it's not a shoulder to cry on, but it's close to it. You know what I mean? Liora's an incredibly empathetic person. That's why she talks to me. No, but she's absorbing all this information coming, and there are people in big corporations, there are people in organizations right across the board. They're individuals. They're all saying the same thing. It's like, they're asking that fundamental question you've just posed, Joanna. Where's my value going to be in this age of, mechanistic, meaningless?
What about children? Is there anything that I can still, high school students like my children, what can I study that is still going to be valuable? That's very scary for them. And they don't use AI, by the way, because they're petrified that this is going to be saved and used against them.
We just have to sort of use our ammunition of our ability. We're meaning makers. Like machines make things, humans are meaning makers. So I know that sounds very abstract, but to marketing people, that does resonate.
I think it's less abstract in the age of AI, and hopefully, and I'm, a proponent like you guys are of AI for good. I hope humans win and humans come out on top on all of this, but we need to step up and to lead and to guide our clients. And I think that's what we're doing. So what is your final bit of advice for anyone watching or listening that knows they have to move, but they don't know what their first step should be?
The first step is a step back. It's not going forward, using it. And I mean, it's good. Test all the tools. Why not? It's nice, but take a step back. Think about who you are, what you want to say before you do anything, because there's this huge pressure to produce content. And yes, I am an advocate of positioning yourself on social media, especially LinkedIn if you're a professional. But before you do any of that, take a step back and ponder. Take a day of reflection. Go to the beach, read books, go to the museum, go to Sibelius' violin concerto, read and reflect, and then come back to who you are, what you want to say, and then do it with meaning.
Yeah, and what we have it actually, so we're posting a lot on LinkedIn at the moment. We're building a brand. In 2-3 weeks, we're getting a lot of very good feedback. So we've hit a vein, if you know what I mean. There's something out there in the Zeitgeist. And it's not about bravery. It's like develop your tone of voice. Develop as a person and an organization. Don't be afraid of saying things that might surprise people. In fact, hug it. Like it's part of who you are. Is develop your own tone of voice. Have a point of view. Because the problem about mechanization is that it deals with averages. It'll just flatten out like the tsunami of Sameness again. But if you have a point of view, you immediately become interesting. And it's the same for a human being as it is for a brand, as it is for an organization, a government, a socio-political point of view. A point of view is invaluable today.
Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. And I guess people should definitely go to LinkedIn and find you both. So give a shout out to your LinkedIn profiles and also anywhere else where people can find you.
So our LinkedIn profile is at The Think Room. My name is Liora Kern, and you can find me on LinkedIn under that name.
Sean Hayes on LinkedIn, but we would like most people to go to our LinkedIn, we call it TTR now, the Think Room on LinkedIn. Fear is fear of the unknown. So if everybody sort of talks to each other and shares ideas, I think it'd be less scary.
Thank you both once again. And no doubt I will talk to you sooner rather than later over on LinkedIn.
Thank you so
Lovely.
much, Joanne.
Thanks for inviting us, and have a great weekend.